All right, welcome to Big Purpose Mastermind. So glad to have you here today. This is Clint Pulver Week, day 2 of Clint Pulver Week. So excited to share Clint with you. If you are a Clint fan, you're going to love this week. If you are new to Clint Pulver, you're absolutely going to love this. Being introduced to this great spirit. Holy cow. Really cool guy. He's doing amazing stuff out in the world. Excited to share that with you. So yes, Clint Pulver Week all week. And I will tell you right now, if you have not seen yesterday's episode, stop right now and go and watch yesterday's episode, because we're going to look at one of his videos. And I told you yesterday I wasn't going to spoil it for you. Well, today I'm going to spoil it for you, because we're going to dissect that a little bit more so that you could see the art of storytelling and how to really use that in your life. So actually, let me back up. If this is your first time coming to Big Purpose Mastermind, or if you just want to be reminded what this thing is all about, it is for anyone who feels that they have a calling, a mission, a life's work to do, a big purpose. And you maybe don't know exactly how you're going to accomplish this thing that is greater than yourself. Well, what we do in this series is we look at some of those masters of influence, some of those people who are using video, who are using storytelling, who are using their gifts in remarkable ways. And as we use them as case studies, hopefully this will give you some ideas on how you show up as the full version of yourself and share the gifts and talents that you've been given. Make that difference, live your life's purpose. And that's what this is all about. So thank you for joining us today, Clint Pulver Week. Again, if you missed yesterday's series session, just make sure you go and watch that right now. So, you know, if you're watching this live, anyway, I'm gonna spoil the story for you. So a couple of things. First of all, well, we're going to talk a lot about stories. Actually, I just realized I didn't tell you. So, okay. So yeah, if you missed yesterday's show and you want to go watch that first, the easiest place for you to do this is to just go to schoolofhumanity.tv. You can see the link right there, and you'll be able to watch that. It's absolutely free. It's kind of like my private YouTube channel, but it'll let you know, it'll let you get access to that. So schoolofhumanity.tv. Okay, so today we are talking about storytelling. Actually, let me share with you the quote of the day. Quote of the day comes from Robert P. And I went to a conference of his in New York City once. And this is one of the things that he said just in his conference. And it just hit me so hard. He said, stories are metaphors for life. And when you tell the right stories, people get involved in them. They were captivated by stories because we're always looking in there for information that's going to help us with our problems and our challenges. Today, we're talking about overcoming obstacles, and stories are one of those tools that really helps us do that, because we see in other people's stories our own story, our own life story, and our journey. And, you've heard you probably heard about the hero's journey and different formulas. We're going to talk just a little bit about that. Actually, just real quick, I wanted to kind of go through the week with you for Clint Pulver Week. So yesterday we talked about his origin story. We're going to look at that a little bit more and dissect it as a story, because we're also talking today about overcoming obstacles. Now, if you are one of those people that feels like, oh my goodness, I've got this big calling to do and I don't know how to do this, and you're trying to understand how story can impact that, story will help you get over that obstacle of being able to truly connect with other people. Okay. Tomorrow we're going to talk about how he's using video to accomplish his big purpose. Clint won an Emmy for either the video that we're watching today or the video we're watching tomorrow. I'm not really sure which. On Thursday, we're going to talk about his innovative video strategies. And on Friday, Clint Pulver is going to be here. So this week, we're going to meet him. We're going to learn all about him. And then on Friday, he's actually going to be here. Now, if you would like to interview him, this is a real mastermind. I know it's kind of weird being online and everything, but I want to have people come on and be able to ask questions to those guests that we are honoring and looking at their lives. So if you would like to ask Clint a question, direct message me and let me know the question that you would like to ask and a little bit about you. And then if it doesn't work for Clint, there will be other people in coming weeks that you can also interview, but love to have you do that. So that is a little bit about Clint Pulver Week this week. So now we're talking about storytelling. And let me just share with you one more graphic that will be helpful to you to understand this. Okay, so if you follow the impact to income formula, what this is this is how you can truly connect with people, how you can make a living making a difference. Okay, if you follow this formula, you can be successful in this. Now, in here, the struggle is what all of us are going through. We are all experiencing pain. As an entrepreneur, you get paid by solving other people's problems. Okay. And when you have that story, the story is that unifying connection that connects you with your audience, you with those people who will be customers, who will be followers, who will listen to your ideas and be able to learn, gain from those. Okay, story is that connection piece. Now, I got to tell you a little bit. When I first heard about the story formulas, I'm a writer. I'm a filmmaker by trade. I don't know if you know that. Hi, I'm Scott Wilhite. I haven't really introduced myself to you. But when I first learned, I was working on my first screenplay, my first full-length movie, film, screenplay script. And I found out about these formulas that they use, and it offended me because I'm a creative guy, and I didn't want the constraints of a formula that just seems like, cookie cutter. It seemed recipe. It seemed, cookbooking. It didn't feel right. But now that I understand stories are metaphors for life and we expect certain things to happen, and there are certain arcs and there are certain things that happen in stories that make that difference, that pull us in, that resonate with us, we really need to follow those formulas. We need to understand them, at least understand the principles in there, because what we're doing is we're serving other people. We need to make sure that we show up in a way that works with them and that resonates with them. Clint did an amazing job with this, and we're going to talk about this in watching a little bit more of his Be a Mr. Jensen video. Now, again, if you missed yesterday's, you're going to want to watch the beginning of that, because you're going to want to do your homework, and that is to watch this whole film. In fact, let me just make sure that I put this link in the chat. Okay, link is in the chat. So if you are watching this live, you can give me a hashtag live. If you're watching the rebroadcast, give me a hashtag replay, and you'll find the link right in there where you can watch Clint's video. You want to watch all of this before you watch what we're talking about today, because again, I'm going to kind of well, I'm going to spoil it for you and not really ruin it. And it's not ruining it. It's understanding the structure in there so that you can use this in what you do. Now, one thing that I did fail to mention yesterday that I kind of kicked myself afterwards. I thought I didn't reconnect the dots. I didn't bring it back to you. When I shared this video, yes, Clint did an amazing thing where he started to share his origin story, but instead of just telling it on stage like most speakers do, he invested in it. He had, he produced this, he wrote this, he created a short film sort of format to be able to share his story. He recorded it and broadcast it out there so that people could see this, share this, pass it around. And it has made a tremendous difference. 90% of his bookings come because of this video. Okay. He's doing amazing things because he did this. And the connection piece that I wanted to do is you can do this too. Okay. There's nothing stopping you. You can use whatever tools you have. You can use whatever storytelling techniques you have. You have the technology of the power to actually do something like this. Now, when you watch the rest of this video, you're going to see it's very simple. I mean, he's got a classroom, he's got a few kids, he's got a couple teachers and things like that, but it's not elaborate. He worked really hard to keep it simple. And by keeping it simple, you're pulled into the story. Okay. And there's a few things that I'm going to just stop in here and kind of dissect. So with that, let's jump into Clint's story. Oh, let me turn up the volume so that you can actually hear this. Here we go.
Now, I've always been the type of person that believes that a single moment in time can change a person's life.
Okay, we talked about this yesterday. A single moment in time. That's what he's stopping the video. He's pointing this out to you. This is one of those critical moments. He wants people to reflect on that internally. Again, stories are metaphors for life. This isn't about him. This is about you. This is about the viewer, whoever is watching his video.
And this was one of those moments for me, and I will never forget it. So I was sitting there with Mr. Jensen and an empty classroom. He walked past me and he sat next to his desk and he said, "Clint, come here. I want to talk to you." And as he looked me right in the eye, he said, "No, I need you to know something. You're not in trouble. But I do have just one question."
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there because it just isn't that a great look? The little boy looking right at the teacher. Okay, now an important part that happens in stories, in so many great stories, is the wise sage. See, in so many stories, kind of failed stories that we tell, we come up with this epiphany, we come up with this great idea, and it's all ourselves, and it doesn't ring true to people because we know that it's bumping into other people. It's the help that we get from others. I mean, there is, you think about in all great stories, there's this wise sage, there's the Yoda, there's the fairy godmother, there's the Gandalf in the story that helps the hero of the story get the pieces that they didn't have. They're on this journey and they need to gather up these pieces, this information, this knowledge. They're the ones that give this to them. Mr. Jensen is the wise sage in this, and Clint is the wise person to put him in here because Mr. Jensen is the hero of the story, helping the young boy who then becomes you as you were watching and listening. Is that making sense to you? Here we go.
That I have to ask you. And he said, "Have you ever thought about playing the drums?" And in that moment, Mr. Jensen, he leaned back and he opened the top drawer of his desk.
Okay, I'm just going to stop right there. If Clint were telling this on stage, if you notice the little details in there, he leaned back, he opened up the top drawer of his desk. If you couldn't see the video, and if you were just listening to Clint tell this story, which I'm sure he has told 100 times, 1,000 times, you can picture that in your mind. When you are telling stories, you want to have concrete examples in there that create that image in people's minds. Okay.
And he reached in and he pulled out my very first pair of drumsticks. And he held them in his hands and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, Clint, you're not a problem. I think you're a drummer."
Okay. Now, one other thing that I want to pull back the curtain on. Do you notice the intensity here that comes in with the music? I mean, the music builds in here, but also Clint does a great job in here as he slows things down. Like he's thinking he's in trouble, he's worried about this, and then he slows the pace down before the big reveal and the twist. I don't think you're a problem. Pause. I think you're a drummer. That, like, using that dramatic pause helps pull the viewer in and listen to you. So I'm just going to play that one more time because I want you to notice that. So when you are telling your stories, you can learn and you can use some of these techniques to really pull people in to your stories.
He pulled out my very first pair of drumsticks. Okay. He held them in his hands and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, Clint, you're not a problem.
Pause.
I think you're a drummer."
Music build. Okay, I'm gonna fast forward just a little bit more. He does some awesome stuff in here where he talks. It has him speaking, has him using this. This is how he's paid for his college. This is how he's made it his career. And then there's one last little thing I want to play for you.
Recorded and played drums all just because of a single moment in time. Somebody believed in me.
Okay, right here.
He saw something in me that I didn't even see within myself. And from that moment, I learned that there's a difference between being the best in the world and being the best for the world.
Okay, So just a couple little things that I want to point out in there. He takes you back to the story, like he's built up to showing him as a speaker, doing the great things that he's done. But then he pulls it back to that little boy, that single moment in time that he wants to communicate to you. He wants you to think about your single moment in time. What is going to be the pivot that gets you going to where you want to be, where you know that you can ultimately end up? That is how he is a master of influence. That is how he has done this remarkable film with just a few people. I mean, it didn't take too much. Like, I'm sure it was an investment for him to create that, but it didn't take too much for him to do that. You can absolutely do this too. You can pull in your friends. You can figure out what your story is. You can work really hard to simplify it. And when you get that clarity, you can truly connect with people. Clint is a master of influence. Okay, we got some great stuff today. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about where he has taken this to remarkable levels. If you missed yesterday's episode or any other episodes, just go to schoolofhumanity.tv. You can get free access in there to all of the different people that we've got on the show. Really cool stuff. I hope that you live your purpose. I hope that you are not afraid to show up and be who you truly are, and that you will use the skills and talents that you've got and that you can gain to truly make that difference in the world, that you can live your big purpose. And with that, I'll see you tomorrow.